I've said that in science we are always looking to make our lives better. The shape of our civilization over the last few thousand years is a testament to that. But now and again we get to divert down some indulgent corridor. Come with me. In the days before the internet, before the digital age, transmission and reception of information around the world was so precious. We are talking, of course, about radio, and later there was TV, bringing images into the living room. Both made our world smaller and enabled the imagination to better scale, scope, and visualize far-off places. Nowadays, we take such capability for granted. But to me, it's still a thrill and a liberation to free the mind to wonder. While I grew up with the AM transistor radios, originally you would see a shortwave set. Frequently, there were old valve radios, often referred to as the wireless. You had to wait a minute for valves to heat up. Then, from the corner of the room, came the deep-toned sounds of "This is London" from the BBC. The big turning knob brought you across the globe, provided your reception held up, of course. On a good day or evening, you might get Luxembourg or maybe a station from France. For some, there was ham radio as a hobby. This was very specialised and enabled you to transmit as well as to receive. So you had the exciting possibility of making friends all over the globe, depending on your transmission power and whatever you could erect as an antenna. At that point, you need a license to operate, and ham-goers tend to be an orderly, respectful group of techies, even today. Occasionally, there were rogue operators who decided to create a station and broadcast their own programming, usually pop music, competing with the official stations. But this tended to hit a nerve with government officials, as it could be used for political reasons, so they duly got banned and raided by the authorities. Today, you can still easily buy AM and FM radios. They're often coupled with alarm clock functionality and come in various shapes and sizes. Some have DAB, or digital audio broadcasting, which uses digital streaming. But these transmission techniques are all terrestrial. Whether analog or digital, the signal comes over the air and is picked up by the antenna. As a further aid to confusion, the analog signal is preserved in its natural state, though it can suffer from deterioration over distance. FM being better sound quality, up to 100 miles of transmission. But shortwave and AM signals have the advantage of long distance capability. A digital signal, on the other hand, such as DAB, is where the original sound wave is transformed into a table of numbers before transmission. Then, at the receiving end, the reverse process takes place. The table of values gets unpacked, and a perfect replica of the original signal is reproduced in real time, giving top quality sound every time. The computer processing is so fast, it can follow instructions to rebuild a signal. With digital, it's all or nothing. At this point, I cannot help but mention the great science fiction novel Contact by Carl Sagan, later made into a movie starring Jodie Foster.
This morning's detection of an unidentified radio source from deep space can neither be confirmed nor denied.
Whatever it is, it ain't local.
Position?
I checked interferometry somewhere in Lyra, I think.
Vega?
Can't be. It's only 26 light years away.
In this tale, scientist Elias Arroway uses giant radio telescopes to detect radio signals from outer space that are artificial in nature. She later figures out that the aliens have encoded details of how to build a spacecraft, buried within the radio signal, all those tables of ones and zeros. The concept is so powerful and credible, not to mention educational, that I consider this book compulsory reading for anyone studying in the field of radio. But that's just my opinion, of course. But now, with the internet, there is yet another type, namely internet radio streaming, exactly what you're listening to now. This opens up our listening possibilities to a whole new universe. No longer do we have to consider where the radio station is based. We can travel anywhere we want. In fact, in the future, when we colonize the moon or Mars, you will also be able to listen to live radio, except that you will have a delay or lag of a few minutes, as the speed of light is limited. So there are hundreds of thousands of stations already on the internet for listening, and any internet-based device like a PC, tablet, or smartphone can tune into stations from respective websites or by installing a specialized app such as the popular TuneIn radio app. But what about the possibility of having a standalone device to tune in to internet radio? With so much internet connectivity now, it would be convenient to have a specialized device for searching the thousands of stations on the net, which at the same time reducing security headaches whenever you are a guest on a public network. Well, as it turns out, they have been available for some time, but they seem not to be so popular in mainstream. Sometimes companies make them and then go bust due to a lack of sales or interest. On the models found on the internet for sale, the Robert Stream 93i and 94i are among the best equipped. The main difference between these two sets are that the Stream i3 has piano black finish and lacks a Bluetooth interface just in case you happen to need that. The Stream i4 has light coloured wood grain case, looks classy and checks all the boxes in terms of specifications, namely Wi-Fi and internet cable for an internet connection, DAB, USB and other interfaces. But it's not cheap, costing in the order of €200, the Stream i3 being notably less. It is by no means the cheapest, though it is among the best. Still, it has a timeless appearance as well as good quality, and I would predict that in a few decades from now, this will be quite the collector's item. So what are our options if we want to make our own internet radio? Happily, there are a few options for this. A great place to start is to use the Raspberry Pi as a hardware and software platform. For those who don't know, this is a PC computer the size of a credit card and a little thicker. It comes cheap at under €100 depending on which version, and there are a wide range of accessories from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. The list of ancillaries include various touchscreens, 5-inch and 7-inch, heat sinks, plug-in power adapters and much more. Armed with such a kit, we can easily install Raspbian, that's the Linux-based operating system. This enables us to configure the Pi as an internet radio with all the connectivity and connection ports of the best available commercial internet radio. While there are many instructive videos on the net covering how to do this, somebody with a basic interest in computers or curiosity about streaming technologies should have no problems here. In fact, the bigger task is often in deciding what variant of radio design to go for. Your typical internet radio will have a dial or buttons to do tuning and a screen in the front panel to give a readout of the channels and menus available. For instance, you normally have a choice in these radios about whether you wish to listen to internet streaming from your local hard drive, music through a USB port, etc. It should also be mentioned that the Pi is not the only option here. The ESP32 is a microcontroller board from Espressif Systems in Shanghai with an integrated Wi-Fi and Bluetooth interface. This is often used in such projects. And then there is the Arduino projects with a big supporting community. This is a more simple setup than the Pi, and though less capable, has delivered many a good project. It also works out considerably cheaper than the Pi to implement. But whichever path you choose, there are typically 3 or 4 interconnecting boards along with the microcontroller, which does the heavy lifting, and the screen interface, which can be as big or as small as you wish. Making this listening device can teach you a lot about these electronic development platforms, as well as give you a lot of confidence. And maybe even add to your CV. Now there's even a nicer aspect to all of this. If you're lucky enough to have an old wireless from the 40s or 50s in your garage or your attic, you should treasure it, because now you've found a real purpose for it. Dust it down and retrofit it with your internet radio circuit board. You can bring it right back from the dead. There are some beautiful old designs to be had. Also, if you know someone who is accomplished at woodwork, you could commission them to carve out a frame housing for the radio set using your choice of wood. You can even print out 3D parts if you prefer, either for the entire assembly or part thereof, including radio buttons and knobs in your favourite colour plastics. A dark brown would emulate the old Bakelite look if you wanted. 3D printers can ultimately be used to produce all kinds of materials like crystals, glass, plastic glass, or such exotic things as liquid wood. Yes, you heard that right. The possibilities are endless. There are Art Deco pages where you can find 1930s style radio from the Twilight Zone. My own favourite idea is to develop an internet radio with a large 7-inch screen for the Raspberry Pi in such an old-fashioned case, and have a world map with moving cursor from east to west across the screen. This would keep up with the dial as you move from country to country, showing all the pre-programmed stations along the meridian as we move across the globe, all loaded from the preset streams we've saved. Freddie Mercury might just have been right when he sang loud and proud all those years about radio. Quote, "You've had your time, you had the power, you've yet to have your finest hour."